the religious right is probably the most funded political movement in American history. Billions and billions of dollars have been raised by pro-life, pro-family groups. You could tick off 15 or 20 just from memory. And we have virtually no true political victories to show for it. We're overrun by the same gender matrimony people. Overrun. Okay? We have been overrun with the blood of the innocent. Over 55 million babies crying out to God for judgment. Their blood staining our landfills, running in our sewers. The blood of these babies crying out. We have been overrun. And yet the fundraising letters keep going out. The false, we're on the edge of victory statements still being made. The same failed patterns still being used. I have a little saying, I'll give it to you now. The pro-life movement became the pro-life establishment. The pro-life establishment became the pro-life industry. And the pro-life industry became collaborators. Amen. A movement is full of fire, pathos. It's moving. Action in the streets. How many of you were arrested with Operation Rescue in the late 80s, early 90s? Anybody here? Okay. A couple people. Nice. Good to see you. Were we in jail together?
Dallas.
Dallas, we were? All right, nice. It's good to see you again. Oh, I remember you. You're number 72, right. You looked good in stripes, by the way. In the late 80s, early 90s, do you realize that Operation Rescue is the largest civil disobedience movement in American history? There were 7,000 arrests in the civil rights movement from 1958 to 1968. 7,000 arrests. They changed the tide of America. The rescue movement between 1987, late 87, and 94, 6.5, 7-year window, we had over 75,000 arrests. 10 times the number. But we didn't win. We didn't win. We failed in our objective. Because our objective is to make it a criminal act to kill babies from conception till death. And I have to own that. We all have to own that we have not prevailed yet. And it grieves me, it vexes me. But I owe it to God and to the babies and to God's people to have an honest assessment. And we were this close to winning. And someday I'll tell you some of the places where we made mistakes, where we blinked, and where the clergy blinked, where bishops and priests and the evangelical superstars blinked, and where we could have won. But we went from being the pro-life movement to the pro-life establishment and wanting pictures with George Bush and wanting access to Newt Gingrich. Are you following me? It's what happens when you become a part of the establishment is that you don't speak against the establishment because you're part of it. That's what separated Winston Churchill from the other leaders in England in the 1930s. He was a member of the Conservative Party, and the 3 prime ministers prior to him, MacDonald, Baldwin, and then Chamberlain, the most infamous of them all, they were all members of his party. But what he said was, I value truth and justice and the liberty of England more than I value loyalty to the party. And so he spoke the truth and was ostracized, vilified. Any Churchill fans here? The most important book I tell people that they can read, leaders especially, outside of the Bible, the most important single volume that somebody could read, in my opinion, for a leader, is The Last Lion Alone, written by William Manchester. The Last Lion Alone. It's a look at Churchill's life from 32 to 39 or 40. And oh my goodness, what a phenomenal prophetic work. Anyway, you look at Churchill, and he's a paradigm. He's a testimony of how we should act when we have been overrun and how we should proclaim the truth. So the pro-life movement became the pro-life establishment. I won't belabor that point. And then it became the pro-life industry. There's money in them there hills. There are fundraising machines that would blow the human mind in Washington, D.C. and around the country. Fundraising machines that would blow your mind how much money they raise. And what do they have to show for it? And then finally, you have pro-life collaborators. I'll make one illustration, then I'll go on. The greatest proof of pro-life collaboration, and then of course they're not even pro-life anymore, collaborating is... Do you want to get America out of the hands of wicked and unjust men and women who are destroying the republic before our eyes, and put leadership back into the hands of righteous men and women so that we don't die as a nation? Well, you're talking about social revolution, and there are rules in social revolution. We can look at the victorious social revolutions of the past, such as the end of slavery, the end of child labor, women's voting rights, the end of segregation, and so much more, and learn from their victories. Look at their actions, their images, their rhetoric, their sacrifices, and their final fruit. We will send you this series that originally cost $129, 7 books for students, 1 teacher's guide, if you'll give a gift of any size and just pay for shipping and handling. Take advantage of it today.